up, YouTube? It's your boy JusRzd, and today we're actually doing another Rage review. This time is for Agatha All Along, episode 6. Low key, might be my favorite episode so far. Probably between that one and episode 4. Probably been my favorite episode so far in this series. This particular, let's just get right into it. This particular episode starts right where episode 5 ends, with kind of the aftermath of Billy using his powers to push the rest of the witches into the mud, causing them to presumably perish. But we see Agatha actually escaping from the mud in another place. I don't know if she was in the same spot or if she was in a different spot. Still haven't seen where Aubrey Plaza's character is at this particular point. But we see pretty much Billy's whole backstory as far as this episode is legitimately like Billy's whole backstory of everything that has transpired up until this point and how he got to where he's at. Now, for this particular part, it was interesting to see William Kaplan, the young man who let's just get into it. So we start off by observing William Kaplan, because I'm trying to figure out how to say this without to make it make sense. We start off following William Kaplan. He's at his bat mitzvah, and we see he's reading the Torah. He's going through the traditional ceremonial things that you do at bat mitzvahs and stuff like that. And then we see the party section of the bat mitzvah. And we see that he's enjoying himself like any normal Jewish kid would. And we see at his party, they have a section where, because apparently he's big into magic. William Kaplan is really big into magic. And so he goes into, they have this tent set up where you can get your fortune told. And of course, most people view that as like a gag or whatever, but it just so happens that the person that's in the booth telling people's fortune is the fortune telling witch that's a part of Agatha's little ragtag coven. And of course, you know, her powers are kind of hit or miss. Like sometimes she'll get a premonition and not realize what she's saying, and so she kind of hit or miss and kind of spotty. But she looks at his hand. She's like she's just looking at him, gives him his fortune or whatever, tells him that his lifeline is broken into. He has 2 sets of lifelines, and just pretty much telling him to live in the present because he was kind of freaked out by the fortune that she gave him. And before he ends up leaving, but he ends up leaving his jacket. So before she can like come to her senses as far as with her powers or whatever, because she was kind of in and out the whole time, she pretty much creates a sigil, puts it in his jacket, and then hands her jacket, I believe it was, back to his mother, and his mother hands it back to him. And the party kind of gets shut down by the police. They said it's a major event happening in Westview. He's from Eastview, so they're telling everybody to evacuate, pretty much. And so as they're telling everybody to evacuate, him and his mom and his dad, they end up getting in the car, they're evacuating, and it looks like this particular time frame is right when Agatha and Scarlet Witch are having their big, massive battle. And we see the dome starting to shrink, so it must be right after the battle, because that's kind of when the dome started to dissipate and shrink. And of course, they get caught up in looking at the dome shrinking. They end up veering into the other lane of oncoming traffic, and when they realize it, Billy yells out like, "Hey!" I mean, not Billy. William yells out like, "Hey!" His mom realizes, she swerves, she gets out the way. They get in a car accident, and William Kaplan dies. Well, he perishes. William Kaplan perishes, and it was kind of a sad moment. Like, he was legit, like, the car hit the tree on his side, on his door. And you hear his heartbeat beating slower and slower and slower till it stops. And then right when it stops, we kind of hear Billy Maximoff speaking, but we know at this particular time frame, at this particular point, Billy and Tommy were tucked into bed when Wanda was calling down the hex, and her and her version of Vision were just kind of having a moment until the hex completely dissipated. And it seems like right before the hex completely dissipated, Billy's spirit kind of ventured and wandered over into William Kaplan's body, and is now residing in William Kaplan's body. And you hear his heart start beating again. His parents flag down a police officer, and they're like, yo, we need some help, our son. And lo and behold, the police officer that comes over there is actually one of the members of Agatha's ragtag coven that they've been on the Witch's Road with. And so we see that take place. So it's like, he's been connected to all these people this whole time, and I don't think he even realized it. So of course, when Billy, now in William Kaplan's body, so I'm gonna call him Billy now. So now that Billy has come to, he's not understanding what's going on. He's been in the hospital. They're saying he's all clear to go home. They don't see any contusions or anything like that in his brain or anything going on to where he would have to stay at the hospital. So they said as long as he's ready, he can go home. And of course, as soon as the parents of William Kaplan come in, he can hear their thoughts, because that was one of Wiccan's powers. What is it? Not telekinetic. Dang, I can't think of his name. He can read your mind, pretty much. He can read your mind. I can't think of his name. I can't think of the name of it. It's not telekinetic. It's anyway. Telepathy. Yeah, it's telepathy. Anyway, I'll look it up later. Anyway, it's telepathic. There we go. That's where I was looking for. He's telepathic. But he also has Scarlet Witch's chaos magic as well. And so at this particular point, he just has the telepathy, and he's not aware of the chaos magic just yet. But he's coming to pretty much this whole situation is kind of freaking him out, because he's in a new body. He doesn't know who these people are, but they know him, and he can hear their thoughts. They're worrying. He can feel it. It's bugging him out. They take him home. The dog barking at him, because of course animals can sense when something ain't right. And the parents are still worrying. He's just like, yo, stop. He was acting in these few scenes. He was like, stop worrying. He's like, I'm sorry for yelling, but stop worrying. And you see him go up to his room, and he's just kind of has a moment to himself. And then the next scene we see is 3 years later, and he's in a car with I believe what is his boyfriend at this particular point, and they share a moment. He reads his mind. His boyfriend wants to tell him he loves him, and before he could do it, Billy's like, well, let me share all of who I am. Like, I came back, I died in a car accident, and I came back different, with different abilities that I didn't have before. And the boyfriend don't know nothing that he talking about. He was just like, I just wanted to share this with you because I love you too. He was like, you love me too? I was like, well, I love you, period. And then they shared a moment. Next we cut to him pretty much divulging that there's more to what happened in Westview than what they're telling them. And of course the boyfriend's intrigued, so he comes back up to the room with him, and Billy begins to show him the information that he's found out as far as just the research that he's done as far as what happened in Westview. He pulls up a YouTube video, and lo and behold, on the YouTube video is another member of the ragtag team with Agatha that's on the Witch's Road. And she's giving, it looks like a review or something like that of some type of product. And we also see more videos of what happened in Westview. He shows, like, it looks like cell phone footage from what was happening in Westview. He sees the red dome, And the boyfriend was like, wasn't that from like a Avengers exercise or something like that? And he was just like, oh, you're so naive. And it was just kind of funny. So he shows him the proof, and he's like, nah, that's a sigil. It's like magic. It's like witchcraft. And in the Red Dome. And so they kind of go on the hunt, and he was just like, I'm supposed to be meeting this guy who's had some information about what's going on, or about what happened in Westview. Can you come with me so we can so we can meet him, and we can figure out what's going on? And so they end up meeting this guy in a parking garage, dimly lit. You see the guy come out, he covers the cameras, and they have this conversation, and lo and behold, the person that he's talking to is actually Ralph Bohner from WandaVision, the person that Agatha had held captive. She pretty much moved in his house and then held him captive in the house, and then he held Monica Rambeau captive in that house as well during the final fight. And so it was dope because he's completely lost it from everything that's transpired. Agatha pretty much manipulating his mind, and Wanda manipulating his mind, and kind of being Agatha's puppet, and her making him do all the different things like poisoning the dog, and just doing the different things that were causing mischief in WandaVision. They were orchestrated by Agatha, but done by Ralph Bohner. And so he was just like, she lied and told everybody else her husband, but actually, I was more like her puppet. And so it was just interesting to see him, of course, cameo. That was dope. To see how messed up he is just from going through that whole experience was made sense, and it was interesting. And then we kind of see just them take that information, and he found out that from Ralph that Agatha's actually still alive. And then with her being still alive, she's still in Westview, but she's trapped under some spell or something that Scarlet Witch had put her under, which we all know at the end of WandaVision, she cursed her to pretty much stay in Westview and be under the hex still while everybody else is out of it. So Agatha is actually the only person in Westview that's still under the hex, still under a spell from the Scarlet Witch. Then Billy goes home. His parents ask about his boyfriend. He's like, nah, he had to go home. Then he goes upstairs, does some more research, and he's like, he's trying to figure out ways to pretty much break the spell on Agatha. And he's like, oh, you need a personal item. So that leads him to Westview. And of course, he pulls up in front of Vision and Wanda's house, his old house, in Westview. And of course, as you know, if you watch WandaVision, that house was never actually built. It was all the a materialized vision under the hex that Wanda created. But the house was never actually built. And it was supposed to be built, but unfortunately Infinity War and Endgame happened, so there was that. So then we see before he actually arrives in Westview, we actually see him do a little bit of research on Agatha Harkness. And we see just different versions of Agatha in different events in history. And that was actually pretty cool, because we know she survived the Salem witch trials, but we also know she's been alive this whole time. So you just see different versions of her in different events and different photos in history. And he finds out what she did as far as murdering her whole coven. And just a little well-known facts on the dark web, because that's what it looks like he was on. It looks like he was on the dark web trying to find that information. And so when he pulls up into Westview, this is when we get to see pretty much scenes not from Agatha's point of view, but from the same scenes that we saw in episode 1 from Agatha's perspective. We now get to see it from Billy's perspective, him breaking in her house and trying to steal some personal artifact. He finds the locket. He takes that. He ends up, of course, getting caught by Agatha. And it was funny because in the first episode, we see him get hit by a car. He ends up getting hit by a car by one of the neighbors. But what actually happened is he actually ran into the neighbor as she opened her car door, but he didn't actually get hit by her car. And so Wanda catches him, and she, as she's interrogating him, what she had in episode 1 as her gun was actually just a nozzle for a garden hose. So it's really funny. And she's interrogating him, so she's still in the hex, so she's seeing things differently. And when she's throwing the pictures down, tell me who she is, and this, that, and the third is literally just a picture of somebody's front yard. So he sees everything normal. So it was dope to see that perspective. We saw in episode 1 how twisted excuse me, how twisted Wanda's view was of everything because she was still under Wanda's hex. And so we see her now we see the opposite view of what everybody else was seeing as Agatha was under Wanda's spell. And so that was actually pretty dope to see it from a different person's perspective and see what everybody else was seeing, as Agatha was pretty much stuck in the same similar routine. And so of course she ties him up, throws him in the closet, and and then she finally comes back once the spell is broken, and that's when they pretty much go through the rest of what happened in episode 1 from Billy's perspective. And we see when she asked him what his name was, he said William Kaplan, and then she said, say it again, and he said Billy Maximoff. But she didn't see anything of what he said because of the sigil that was protecting him. And so that was dope to see that part. And then we cut back to, like I said, Agatha climbing out of the mud on the Witch's Road. We see Billy. We see Billy just kind of sitting there, just mulling over everything that just transpired, and we see Agatha just pretty much confronting him about everything. She applauding the fact that he was able to use his powers, and just kind of interrogating him as far as how he got this new body, and telling him not to be ashamed of his powers, and this, that, and the third. And he's like, yeah, so what, you broke the rules, that's what we do, and blah 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 blah. And then Billy's just like, look man, I don't even need you at this point for the Witch's Road. I'm gonna just do this myself with the power that I have. And he tries to summon some power, it doesn't work, and Agatha laughs at him, low-key kind of mocks him, and it was just kind of funny. And she kind of gets him to spill what his motivation of even being on the Witch's Road is. It's not to find his mom, so it's not what we thought it was going to be about him trying to find Scarlet Witch, but it's about him trying to find Tommy, who is his twin, who is Speed. And he said he can sense him, but he can't locate him, can't pinpoint where he is. And so that's going to be interesting to see how in these next 3 episodes they go about trying to find and locate Speed, and to see if they're going to actually find Tommy, and if by the end of this series, if they're going to actually reunite Billy and Tommy as older teens. Clearly, because Billy's already an older teen, but that would be dope. That would be what I would hope they would do with this series. I thought he was going to go I thought this series was going to be about resurrecting Scarlet Witch, but it would be dope if they ended it with resurrecting Speed. That would be fire. But the episode pretty much ends with them agreeing to finish out the Witch's Road and see if they can locate Tommy. And we still haven't seen Aubrey Plaza's character. So there's been talk and hints that she's the celestial spirit Death, or the cosmic entity Death, which would be a dope twist, and that would make her a major player in the MCU, and would also explain a lot if it's true. But we have yet to see that reveal confirmed, so I don't know. Here's hoping. But like I said, this particular episode, I'll probably give it a 9. I really like this episode, particularly just to see William Kaplan's backstory, and to see how Billy came to be, how his spirit came to be inside of William Kaplan. That was kind of interesting. Instead of them doing the whole reincarnated situation, it just, his spirit kind of found him when the hex went down. So that was interesting, because he was like the closest probably nearby dead body. But yeah, that was interesting the way that went, the way they had that go. So wasn't mad at it. I like the backstory. I like seeing. I like the way they played the events that happened in episode 1, except instead of from Agatha's perspective, they now played it from Billy's perspective, and you got to see how foolish she really was looking in the hex locked in with Scarlet Witch, which is why the neighbors were all looking at her like she was crazy when she finally broke out of the hex, because they were just like, we just kind of went along with it because you was just kind of still stuck in the spell. So that was kind of dope. But yeah, let me know in the comments below how you felt about this episode. Have you been watching it? Have you not been watching it? Let's chop it up in the comments about how you feel about this particular episode, how you feel about the series as a whole. And don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to share the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified anytime we drop a new video on the channel. We on our way to 1,000 subscribers. We breezed past 300. And we are on our way to 1,000 subscribers, but we can only get there with your help. So hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you can be notified anytime we drop a new video. And never forget, it's FreeSoul to the show free. Let's get it.